Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, I put up a video yesterday morning. Many of you have watched it. I can tell by the numbers. It seems to be a pretty popular topic. A lot of views, but also seems to be somewhat controversial. I don't understand why. It just seems to be kind of common knowledge. But wanted to address a few things because I think it is a very serious topic for us to be discussing, and that many of you, you need to make your decision. And what I'm talking about is, are you going to continue to live in and around all these people in these cities, near these cities, continue to live in the suburbs, in the apartments, or are you going to pull the trigger and attempt on this life of rough, tough, and hardship that leads to self-sufficiency? I think it's kind of an important thing to revisit. Before I get started, I just wanted to update. It looks like that the death toll in Turkey has topped at least 11,000 people. I know there's a lot of stuff going on with that. Haven't talked about it much. Mostly it's just devastating at this point. What really happened, what's going on, the politics behind all this stuff. Really the main focus is there's a lot of hurting people over there, and they still need to be lifted up in some prayers. But let's get on with this. So one of the things that seems to be a theme in yesterday's video is that people think that I believe you're not going to survive unless you live way out here in the sticks. That's not true at all. I think you could definitely survive in an urban or suburban environment. I just think it's going to be a lot tougher. To use an analogy, it's like a sinking ship, which is exactly what's going on. This whole society, the Western culture, everything. It's a big sinking ship. That's exactly what's going on. It's the big old Titanic sinking down. Now, the ship's sinking. It's apparent. You're watching this channel, and you're watching other channels like mine. It's coming down. Your choices are to find a little raft made out of twigs and lumber and maybe a door off of the ship or something like that, and stay afloat out in the ocean until you can either get to shoreline or someone can rescue you, or you can jump in one of those big survival boat thingies that, got a little motor on it, got an emergency kit in it, some food and some water, blankets, maybe even a radio, and see how well you can survive in that out on the ocean. Both are survivable. It's just that one makes surviving a lot better. And that's really the difference between living out in the sticks like I do, and like many of you also do, as opposed to staying and living in the cities. It's survivable. It's just going to be a lot harder. There's just no way around that argument. And I know that some of you are just dead set on staying where you're at. Maybe because you want to. Maybe because you feel you have no other choice. But I just want to tell you that a lot of times, and this is probably going to be harsh for some of you, a lot of times what we believe are choices are just our, already determined choices. We've already determined that this is what we're going to do, and it's not because it's a choice, it's because it's just what we've decided we're going to do. I know, it takes money. Yep. A lot of times it takes a decent credit. It takes a fairly healthy body. Youth is always a good thing. Just being in the right location and certain opportunities in life, it makes living like this, purchasing land, cutting out a lifestyle out in the wilderness, it makes it a lot easier. But I'm here to tell you from my personal experience, you certainly don't have to have great credit ratings, not hardly any money in the bank, not good health. My health has improved because I've been pushing myself and working on it, but it was a little less than a decade ago that my brain and my spine was all cut open and pretty much had to relearn to walk again. I understand what that's like. There's a lot of things that happen to people that hold them back, but the biggest thing that happens that holds them back is what's going on in their own mind. Got some friends around here. They're very dear friends to my wife and I, and they are in their 60s and 70s, and they are not in good health. They don't have a lot of money. They don't, have a lot of income other than, like Social Security. And they came out like this, and they got a piece of raw, bare land, and they put a little, shed cabin on it, and they are living their life on it, and it's been rough on them. They are just true pioneers out in the wilderness doing this, and at their age. And you know what? I greatly admire them because they're doing it, and they know it's tough, and they've just determined in their minds that they're gonna accomplish this, and they're gonna succeed, and they've got to be some of the toughest people that I know. This lifestyle isn't easy, but it's certainly safer than the alternative. Sure, it's easy to live in the cities. Sure, it's easy to have your heated and air-conditioned home with your plumbing and hot water and comfortable everything. And there's nothing bad about having those things. But you have to admit that it's not as safe. It's not as secure. It's not as survivable. And that's really the big difference. This lifestyle is more survivable. It doesn't mean that bad things aren't going to come out here too. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have to defend ourselves from bad people and bad government. But there's a lot less of that out here. There's less people to contend with. And whenever you have less people, you're going to have less problems. Look at the story of Abraham and Lot. I guess at the time it was Abram. But they had to make a decision because there was just too much of them on one piece of property. And they decided to part ways. And Lot, he went into the city. And Abram, well, it indicates that he pretty much stayed nomadic. It talks about throughout those scriptures there in Genesis, 13, where he moved his tent from here to there. Well, living in a tent's nomadic. That's typically associated with living out in the country. Whereas Lot moved into the cities. Oh, it was, a lot greener grass and a lot more water, and it was better. It was easier. But look what happened. Lot fell into the sinfulness of Sodom and Gomorrah. It doesn't mean that he himself, but it clearly indicates that it became very difficult for him, and that it was probably more of a temptation than he could handle. Whereas Abram stayed out and focused on the Father. And I think that that's a real good analogy of the differences of moving into the city or staying into the city versus living out in the country life. I'm not saying that you can't be a believer inside the city. What I'm saying is it's a lot easier out here. I can control the wickedness and the worldliness that my children see in their lives much easier out where I'm at. I don't have to worry about, taking them around town and the sights that they see and the people, the drug addicts and the inappropriate dressed people and all of the other stuff, because I can control that a lot better. And it's not because I don't ever want them to have anything to do with it. It's kind of like I said yesterday in the Rumble video I put up. It's allowing that concrete to harden before a heavy load is put on it. And that's really what we're trying to do with our children. Folks, this lifestyle is not easy. Coming out of Babylon is not easy. Coming out of her, my people, that's not easy. Coming out of the wickedness is not easy. Coming out of the cities that things are comfortable and easy and we're set in our ways, it's not easy. It's not easy to find a piece of property that you can afford and to try to cut your little path into the bush, so to speak, so that you can live. It's not easy. There's nothing easy about it. But it is doable. And for those that are willing to do it, I would strongly encourage you to start making those moves and making them soon. For the rest of you, odds are you're just going to stay where you're at. And maybe you can do all right there. It's possible. I'd say your chances aren't nearly as good as if you got out of those cities. But you can do it, and I would just encourage you to really visit and think about your plan of security. If you live in the cities, yeah, you can stock up a lot of food, you can stock up water, you can stock up ammunition, you can stock up medical supplies. But you need to be focused heavily on your security plan. What are you going to do to board yourself up and to do your best to prevent being overrun by outside people that are hungry and hurting, and people that see that you have the stuff that they need, because that's going to be really your biggest threat, because there's a lot of people in these cities, and the more there are people, the more there are going to be hurting people and hungry people and angry people and desperate people. And really, that's going to be some of the greatest threat that you will incur. And so I would encourage you to really strongly and heavily think about how you're going to defend yourself. It's not putting you down. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that it's going to be harder on you, and you should just accept that if your choice is to stay where you're at. For the rest of you, need to be getting serious. Land prices have come down a little bit, but they're still a little higher, but I have seen prices in my area in the $2,000 to $3,000 an acre range that are some pretty decent properties. You're going to have to pull the trigger. It's just all there is to it. You're either going to have to make your final decision and fortify yourself where you're at, or hurry up and get moving, because you don't have a lot of time left. The changes that are happening are pretty rapid, and what is coming at us could come quite soon. Folks, it's time to get your houses in order, to prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.